Hello again and welcome back to my channel. My name is Makisha. I am a relationship coach and marriage and family therapist. And today I am tackling another topic that one of my subscribers asked me to talk about. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Family members borrowing and family members loaning money to each other. Yeah. So most of us know that it is not uncommon for most people to be stressed out a little bit about finances, about money, especially here in the United States. Money is a common source of stress, whether you are single, whether you are married, whether you're raising kids in a two-parent household or as a single parent. For most people, money is a stressor. Not having enough or not budgeting correctly or not knowing how to spend according to your needs versus your wants. Money is just a common stress for many people. And many of us who live in the United States are in debt in some type of way. So we're going to jump right into this lending money as a family member to another family member. There are some pros and cons to this, mostly cons. I believe it can have some pros if you do one of the most important steps that I am going to talk about. When you lend money to a parent, whether you lending it to a sibling, whether you loaning it to an adult child or a close relative, I know most people, they're doing it with great intentions. That's understandable. Someone may be going through a rough time because they may have lost their job or they may have um, just moved and haven't secured employment yet, or they could have student loans that just started kicking in. Lord knows I know what that means. They may have situations where their car broke down. There are different reasons. Someone may be having health challenges. There are different reasons why someone may want to borrow money. And today, so happened I was volunteering at my church as we prepare for our community impact day, where we give out book bags and food boxes and different things to families. We were having a conversation. I was having a conversation with another volunteer, and she was stating how she has nieces and nephews who like to borrow money sometimes. And her stance is no, you're not going to borrow money from me for your needs because you have spent all your money on your wants. I'm a firm believer in that. You should not loan money to individuals who take their money and spend it on things that they want versus their necessities, and then they come to you and ask you to help pay their rent, pay their light bill, pay their cell phone bill, pay their car insurance, put gas in the car, buy groceries, whatever the case may be. You quite often are not helping the individual when that is a perpetual way of being for them. That's how they live. That's who they are. You're actually enabling that mindset or those habits, that pattern. And we don't want to enable negative patterns or bad behaviors. So one of the things I want you to think about before you loan the money, and this is something that experts say, and this is also my personal opinion. If you cannot afford to give it as a gift, you cannot afford to loan it. Because with family members, quite often, there is no agreement in place. And that's one of the things that need to be done to minimize confusion, to minimize resentment, to minimize tension in the relationship. The same way you would go to a bank or any other financial institution and ask to borrow money, you would have to sign, seems like almost your life away, giving your firstborn child, seems like. The same thing should occur when you are loaning, I should say, money to a family member. There should be an agreement. There should be terms outlined. You should have a document that states their name as the borrower, your name as a lender, how much money they're borrowing, the date that they're borrowing the money, the date that you all have agreed they will repay it, and the amount that they will repay, because you may decide you want to add some interest on there, but it needs to be within what is reasonable for a personal loan. You can't just charge someone 40 or 50% because that is not what you can do. In a court of law, you can't do that. So you want to make sure the terms are set up so you can have it in writing. If you have to go to civil court to get your money back, then you will have something in writing to show that you all had an agreement and your family member has defaulted on the loan. So it is extremely important, if you're going to do that, to get it in writing, or you're giving it away without the expectation of receiving it back, because you know there is a good opportunity that they won't. Reason being, family members who borrow tend to take the family member who lent them the money for granted. They just assume because you are a family member, you do not need your money back in at any particular time. There are flexible terms. They'll give it back to you whenever they have the opportunity to give it back to you. No. If you are borrowing the money, there should be terms in place to where you have to give it back at a particular time. So keep in mind, if you're going to loan a family member money, you want to have it in writing. The second thing is, family members who lend someone money, they tend to believe they have a say-so in what is going on in the borrower's life. Meaning, you have heard people say this, you've seen people go back and forth about this on social media. If you watch anything like Hot Bench or any of the judge shows, you've seen this, where people who have loaned the money, they're upset with the person who borrowed the money because the borrower is out living their life. They're on social media showing that they're turning it up at a club, turning it up on vacations. They just spent $300-400 getting their hair done. They may have just purchased something new for their home. And so you're thinking, how you have the money to do that, but you owe me X number of dollars, and what you just did costs more than the amount of money you owe me. So it creates resentment, it creates tension. So when you have those family get-togethers, it's some tension there before you all even get there, because you know when somebody owes you money in the family and they have not paid you back, honey, you don't keep your mouth closed. You have told your mama, your auntie, your grandmama, your granddaddy, your cousins, and everybody else that such and such in the family owes you money, and how much and how long it's been since they have made a payment. So now you have other family members involved, and those family members tend to take sides, and they may be on either side of the situation, and it perpetuates the situation and make it even worse. So you have to think about, this becomes a family situation. Typically, not just the borrower and the lender, it becomes a family thing. Because, honey, when you don't show up for the summertime family barbecue or the Thanksgiving dinner, they'll wonder, well, where is such and such? Oh, well, she's mad or he's mad because such and such owe them money. And they said they couldn't come here to this and see him or her here with their new hairstyle or their new car, or they just returned from a vacation and they still owe them money. So then it creates tension at the family get-togethers. And I would say, do not loan the money if you cannot afford to give it as a gift and be without it, because you don't want to add to a stressful you do not want to have stress added to your family dynamics just because two people are in a situation where one person does not seem to want to pay the other one back. The other thing is, it creates emotional stress, which is what I was just speaking to, for the entire family. If the entire family isn't involved, it's creating emotional stress for you, the lender, the person who gave them the money, who allowed them to borrow the money. You're stressed because you're expecting regular payments in a certain amount and you're expecting for the loan to be paid back on X date, because you and I both know when most family members come and ask to borrow money, honey, they will say in a minute, girl, I'll be able to pay you back in 2 weeks. I'll be able to pay you back in about 2 or 3 months. Or, man, bro, you know I got you. I just need to hold something for a little while. I just got something to do. You know, I'll give it back. I'll give it back to you. You know, that's the conversation. There is no structure in those terms. There are no agreements in those terms. And you are upset because you feel like they know that they owe you and they should be making a payment. Well, honey, if you don't have it in writing, no, it's really like it doesn't exist. So, at the very least, if you're not going to type up an agreement, at the very least, you should send it over in a text message. Because you know, y'all people today, y'all like to send some text messages before you pick up the phone and call, or before you send an email, or before you type up a document. So, at the very least, if you're not going to type up an agreement, you should at least send it in a text message so both of you have it, and you also want to include the terms. Everything should be in there. The other thing is, when you are the lender and you are allowing that family member to borrow money, you are to some degree feeling like you have a little bit more power sometimes, because you can almost like hold that over their head. It's like you feel entitled to be able to say or do things, or to be all up in their business, and to have the opportunity to say this or say that, because you feel like that gives you a little bit of an edge to say what you want to say and be in their business a little bit more than what you normally would, because you have loaned them money. I also want you to think about, how does the money play into your love for your family member, the trust you have in your family member, the emotional safety the two of you have with each other? How does loaning that money impact all of that? Did you trust them beforehand and now they have shattered that trust? Did you have emotional safety with them? Did they have it with you before the monies were exchanged? Um, did you all truly care about each other? What type of relationship did you all have, or do you have? And are you willing to possibly ruin that relationship because one person wants to borrow and the other person is willing to lend? You have to ask yourself, what has been the past track record for that family member who is asking to borrow money? Can you trust them to pay you back? Have they shown you that they are worthy of being trusted? If they never give you one penny back, can you still see them the same? Can you still love them the same? Would you trust them in the future? What impact would that have on you all's relationship? And I want you to think about that before you actually lend them the money. Can you afford to have a relationship destroyed and possibly create hostile dynamics within the family unit because you're not getting the money back? So I want you all to think about that when you are thinking about loaning someone money and before you ask to borrow money as well. And I also, in closing, I want you to also think about this. Are you truly helping the family member when they ask to borrow money? Or going back to what I said in the beginning, are you enabling? It's one thing to help someone out who does not consistently ask you or other family members for help, but they're going through a difficult time, versus someone where this is how they live. They always seem to be asking someone for something because they're not managing their finances well. God asks us to be He tells us to be a good steward of everything He gives us. That's our time, that's our money, that's our gifts, talents. We're supposed to be good stewards of everything God has given us. And are you being a good steward by loaning them the money when you are expecting it back and you cannot afford to give it as a gift? If you cannot afford to give it as a gift because they may not pay you back, you should not give it. And I also want you to think about having a conversation with them and ask, how can you help support them to make sure they become a good steward, and help them possibly with a budget or speaking with someone who can offer financial help to help them through times like this, so they do not continue to make these type of decisions that put them in a place to where they need to borrow money. So I appreciate the question coming in. That is my perspective of family members actually borrowing money and lending money. It is only as good and as healthy as it can be as the agreement you have in place. So keep in mind, if you're thinking about borrowing money or loaning money, you want to have it in writing with all the terms listed that works for both of you. And oh, and for the person borrowing the money, because I have seen this before, I have seen that person say, well, they knew I would give it back to them once I got it, but I never got it. But you're still living your life as though you're not going to give it back. You haven't called them. You're avoiding their text messages. You're avoiding their phone calls. You may not even show up at the family gatherings because you know they're going to be there and they're going to ask you for some of the money. So when you go to ask to borrow the money, I want you to keep in mind, what are your intentions, and are you truly being sincere about the need for the request versus a want? And are you committed to being a man or woman of your word and living in integrity and paying it back? If you know that is not you, don't even ask to borrow. And you, as a lender, when you know that's not them and they have demonstrated that they can't be trusted with money, honey, keep your money. Don't give it to them. So I hope this has helped in some kind of way, and I hope both of you, the lender and the borrower, will be a good steward of everything God has blessed you with, so that you all can keep harmony in your relationship, trust in your relationship, love in your relationship, and your family dynamics will not be impacted by it. If this has helped you in some kind of way, or you believe someone else can be encouraged by it, please share this video with them. And if you're not a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again on the next video.